What's up everybody, Jack of Many Trades back here again with another video, and today I'm actually going to be starting a brand new series here on this channel where I'm going to be going through a bunch of games that I play on the Steam Deck, games that I've been very excited to play and ones that I've gotten since I've gotten the Steam Deck. Basically just going through and reviewing how they play on the Steam Deck, what the experience is like. I'm going to be covering a number of different topics, including the FPS of them, graphical fidelity, readability of text on screen, experience on the Nreal Air. If there's going to be an online connection required, I know that a lot of you guys travel with your Steam Decks, so if you are one of those people, these videos are going to be really helpful for you because I will be talking about if you can actually play the game when you're on the go, or if there's anything that you might want to consider before you start trying to play a game on the go. Another thing is if there are any special requirements to get the game running. Additionally, I'm going to be going over battery life, so I'll be sure to let you guys know what the battery life is going to be like if you're playing a particular game. So finally, I'm going to give you guys a ranking for these games on an A to F scale, so that way you know what the experience is going to be like ahead of time if you don't already have a Steam Deck. And even if you do have a Steam Deck, I'm sure that these videos will provide at least some value to you, especially if you're looking at buying a certain game. If I already have it, I can, maybe help you guys out with your purchasing decision. So as with all of my videos, I'm going to leave links to everything that I show here down in the description below. Please drop me a like, and that does help out with the algorithm and getting the channel to more people. As well, if you would like, please consider subscribing. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright, so for this first episode of On Deck, I'm going to be doing a review of Dying Light 2. This is a game that I was actually super excited to play when I first got my Steam Deck, and so I think it's kind of an appropriate game to do as my first episode for this series. So one thing that I wanted to start off with is just showing you guys how much space this is going to take up on your Steam Deck, since some of you may have the 64 gig model. I have the 512 gig version myself, although I did actually upgrade it with a 1 terabyte SSD. If you saw my video right up here on how to install Windows 11 on your Steam Deck. But this is a 49.8 gigabyte game, so if you have the 64 gig, this will pretty much take up the entirety of your onboard storage. So I definitely recommend buying an SD card. I use the SanDisk SD cards, 512 gigabytes. I also use Samsung 512 gigabyte Evo SD cards, so I'm going to leave links to those down in the description below. So here we are on the main screen, and for the remainder of this video I'm going to leave the performance stats on so that way you guys can see. And this will be a spoiler-free video, so I'm not going to be doing any story missions. I'm just going to be kind of running around and doing basic things that you can do with this game. Alright, so what I generally do as far as video settings for this game is I have the low quality preset on, and I set the upscaler mode to FSR2 quality. That way it's not having to render the game at full resolution. And additionally, inside of the Steam panel here, I have my refresh rate set to 40, since you're not going to be getting 60 FPS with this game. It's just not going to happen. And then frame rate limit is on 40. I leave everything else off. You kind of don't need to go too crazy with that. Alright, but as you can see here, we are currently drawing about 20 watts from the battery. I have only 43% of my battery remaining at this point, and it says that I'll get about 52 minutes. Generally for this game, if you have 100% battery, you'll get probably an hour, hour and a half-ish. just using the Steam Deck's built-in display. If you use the Nreal Airs, you may get a little bit more battery life since they are a smaller display. But as far as the gameplay experience for this game, everything is pretty good. I should also note that for this game right now I have the display brightness on 100%. If you have a lower brightness level, this game will actually run for a fair bit longer. Alright, so another major thing with Dying Light 2 is the upgrade system and the map. Something that I really wanted to talk about is text readability. So as far as your readability of text, I'm not going to lie, text is pretty small, as you would expect for a 7-inch or so display. I can read it pretty comfortably, but I'm also a little bit younger. If you are on the older side, it may be kind of hard for you to read. It's even a little bit tough for me, but I am sitting behind the camera, so it's kind of further than I would play normally. At a normal viewing distance, if you're around my age, sort of mid-20s, you should be perfectly fine to read everything. If you're a little bit older, it may be kind of harder for you to see, but that's one thing that's really great about using the Nreal Airs. If you are a owner of the Nreal Airs or you're looking at getting them, they definitely do help out a little bit since you get a much larger display. So to connect the Nreal Air to the Steam Deck, all you need to do is plug in the cable that they give you, and plug that into the top of the Steam Deck, your Steam Deck display will shut off and your Nreal Air display will turn on. Alright, right now I am wearing the Nreal Airs, so unfortunately you can't see what I'm doing on the screen, but it's basically the same thing that I had up before. It is quite substantially easier to read right now because, again, we do have a much larger display. So if you guys do have a little bit of trouble reading with your Steam Deck, definitely using the Nreal Airs will help out a lot. With this game, if you put on the Nreal Airs and you were running at 40 FPS on the Steam Deck, with the Nreal Airs you're going to be running at 30, just a few less frames than I was getting with my Steam Deck, but it's honestly not that bad. And again, the other thing that's nice about the Nreal Air is the fact that you have the built-in speakers, so you can listen to your game. They are pretty directional, so in general you're kind of going to be the only one listening to it, although if I were on a plane or something like that, I would definitely want to have headphones plugged into the Steam Deck, just because I don't really like making too much noise in public. That being said, like I said, you will have a great experience with the Nreal Airs with Dying Light 2. So as far as graphical fidelity for the Dying Light 2, like I said, I play this game on the low preset just because it's kind of what gives me the best FPS, the most consistent results. You can play on medium or even high, but you will be sitting in the mid to low 20s as far as your FPS, and that honestly isn't really that great of an experience. So I would personally recommend just sticking to the low preset with FSR 2.0 quality, and you will be pretty good to go. As you can see here, I think the game looks honestly pretty great. The nice thing about the Steam Deck is that it's a small display, so even though it is a fairly low resolution, and even if the texture quality is a little bit low, because of the size of this display, it actually looks pretty fantastic. So graphical fidelity is a go. Alright, so next we're going to actually go over the online connectivity requirements. Right now I'm going to be showing you guys if Dying Light 2 can be played without an internet connection. So as you can see, I have just disabled my Wi-Fi. We are no longer connected to a network. So let's try to hit play here. And again, remember that the first time that you boot this game up, you will need to have an internet connection regardless, because it needs to download and install certain executables for the Proton to actually be able to play this game. Alright, so again, Wi-Fi is disabled. We are right now on the main menu. Let's hit continue. So right now we are back in the game, and we are in offline mode, and as you can see, the game is fully playable. Obviously you are not going to have access to any of the online features of this game, but that stands to reason since you're not connected to Wi-Fi. But the fact that you can play this game on the go anywhere is definitely something that is going to be a good thing. Alright, so the final thing that I wanted to touch on before rating this game is if you need to do anything compatibility-wise. So there are no special options for launch options. I know some games you may have to disable a launcher or do things like that. You don't have to do that with this game. Additionally, you don't even have to force compatibility of any particular Proton version. So this game is fully supported. It will work straight out of the box with no issues. So quickly to recap my experience of Dying Light 2 on the Steam Deck and give you guys a final ranking. As far as FPS is concerned, you're going to get about 45 to 40 FPS if you use the settings that I showed. As far as graphical fidelity, I think it's pretty great, especially on this small 7-inch screen. Things are going to look great. Even if you do go up to the Nreal Airs with the 1080p display, it's going to look fantastic. I don't think you guys are going to have any issues. As far as readability of text on the screen, I think Dying Light 2 has some small text that can be a little bit hard, especially if you have older eyes. So readability is going to be a little bit lower on the Steam Deck's built-in display. However, if you do have Nreal Airs, the readability issue becomes kind of a non-issue. Since the display is so much bigger, you're going to have absolutely no trouble reading the text. Bringing us right along to the Nreal Air Experience, I think it's fantastic. You do lose about 10 FPS using the Nreal Airs versus the Steam Deck's built-in display, but it's honestly not that big of a deal, considering that you do get the built-in speakers on the Nreal Air, which will be put right next to your ears, so you get a pretty nice experience there. The Airs do get pretty bright, so when you use the Nreal Airs, you're going to get pretty similar battery life to what you have on the Steam Deck. You might get a couple minutes more because the displays are actually a little bit smaller on the Airs, although that does depend on the brightness setting that you have it at. As far as the battery life for the Steam Deck, like I said, you're going to get about, I would say, 2 hours probably at most. More reasonably, I'd say about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. If you're playing with the settings that I showed, you might be able to squeeze out a little bit more battery life doing tricks like lowering your brightness, turning off connections, or other things like that. But I think in general, about 2 hours is probably a pretty reasonable estimate about what you'd get. As far as special workarounds, as you saw, there are none, so this is a fully supported game on Steam. And as far as my ranking, I'd have to give this pretty much an A ranking. You don't need an online connection to play, so that's great. Like I said, I think visually this game looks pretty good. The Nreal Air Experience is great. Battery life is pretty decent. As you guys know, the Steam Deck doesn't have the best battery life in the world, but you kind of can't expect it to, considering that you're playing full AAA games that were originally made for PCs to be docked. So personally, I don't think it's that big of an issue. So overall, if you guys were curious about how Dying Light 2 runs on the Steam Deck, I think it's absolutely fantastic. You guys should definitely try it if you have a Steam Deck. If you're still waiting on a Steam Deck, or if you get one around Christmas, this is definitely a game that will run perfectly. Alright, so I hope you guys liked the first video in the series of On Deck, the show where we rank video games on the Steam Deck. If you did like this video, please leave a comment down below. If you didn't like it, definitely give me suggestions on what I could do better. I'm always looking to improve here and give you guys more value for your time. With that being said, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. I'll see you in the next video.